Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today for a conversation that sits at the heart of modern business transformation. Our topic, overcoming data challenge, harnessing AI and reporting for smarter business decisions and sustainable growth, is more relevant than ever. Across industries, organizations are facing increasing pressure to improve transparency, manage complex data, and demonstrate real progress on sustainability. At the same time, AI is unlocking new possibilities for accuracy, automation, and strategic insight. Today, we will explore how leaders can bridge these two worlds, improving data quality, strengthening reporting frameworks, and ultimately using technology to drive meaningful long-term impact. So, to set the stage for today's discussion, it's my pleasure to introduce our distinguished panelists. Each of them brings a unique perspective shaped by years of leadership, technical expertise, and global experience. So I will start from Maher. You have an extensive involvement with both government and private sector initiatives in sustainability. Given you are looking to set up a carbon credit service company, how do you see AI helping overcome data quality and data aggregation challenge in carbon accounting and ESG reporting, especially across complex supply chains?
Sure, thank you for the question. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here. I think whenever we talk about AI, we need to take a step back and understand what really enabled these models for them to work. The very first thing that people and companies need to look about is about their data, and whether this data has been really segmented, and before that they're clean because they come from various sources, whether missing data is going to be all the time. I was working in a couple of organizations, one of them were across 100 countries, and one of the things we're managing is just data, collecting data to make sure, before even we think of building models, we need to make sure that data are really segmented correctly. So I think data will become an essential part of it if you want to develop a model before you're doing reporting. The second element to it is then developing the model. When you start developing the model, I mean, we often hear a lot of things about the black boxes, i.e. understanding what has really gone in developing the model. So one of the things we used to do very often is getting an independent audit review on the model we develop. Now, while you may think, how come we've been developing AI and the AI just came in with the ChatGPT? That's not the fact, by the way. I know ChatGPT made it more available, easy to use because of the GUI it has available. It has made it. But machine learning models and AI model has been there for a very, very long time. So we've been developed, I mean, it can predate to 1648 when Blaise Pascal started calculating machine back in that time. But the actual term was coined in 1955, and of course the first machine learning model happened in trading back in 1982 by James Simon. But we were building models in organizations as early as or end of 1990s, beginning of 2000 in understanding of behavior. So then after getting data fixed, you need to make sure that you have your AI models properly done, and those are auditable. You're able to make sure they're giving you the result you require. That's why you require a human in the loop to make sure when you're doing your reporting, those are actually checked by a human.
Thank you. And I believe that this gives a crucial clarity on how organizations can manage fragmented sustainability data. So now coming to another important topic, Pratik. So many companies currently approach ESG as a compliance exercise. How do we move from ESG, from compliance to strategy?
Sure. Thank you, and it's great to be here with the panelists, and thanks for the question, and welcome to everyone. At Emtribe, that's exactly the problem we are solving here, right? Now, until now, data has always been treated as something that you do as an autopsy. At the end of the year or reporting period, you collect data with weeks and months, and then by the time you get the report ready, the data is already kind of out of date. So one of the main core ways in which AI helps is essentially turn that from an autopsy to a proactive radar-like intelligence, where you're able to make sense of data in real time and take appropriate business decisions. So that is a journey, and businesses don't have just a sustainability data problem, but they have 50 different data problems, right, across the organization. So we see more and more AI helping you make sense of the data without having to do the grunt work by humans. Of course, like His Excellency mentioned, we will always need humans in the loop to make sense of the data, to make strategize, and then productize these things. But the grunt work is where the AI and the platforms really kind of shine. And especially with AI becoming more and more powerful, that part of grunt work can be really streamlined. So that's where we kind of help in strategizing and then moving ahead.
Yeah. Yes, and I believe this perspective is essential for reframing ESG as an opportunity. And Katharina, you drawing on your experience shaping global sustainability reporting policies, you worked for one of the largest and most innovative companies globally, which is Amazon. Which invests heavily in AI and sustainability. What can other organizations learn from Amazon approach?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me here. Amazon is a global company, and just yesterday I saw some retail packages, and it still makes me happy because they're investing a lot in being more sustainable. They're investing in making the packages smaller, they're investing in e-mobility for their companies, but they're also thinking about the more global agenda and thinking, can I create demand signals that other companies, for them it's also cheaper than to have e-vehicles, electronic mobilities. Now, one principle in Amazon is invent and simplify. That's one of the leadership principles. And that's what I also want to bring to ESG reporting, but because that's what I've been living for the last few years, is it doesn't need to be difficult. I think just get started, it doesn't need to be perfect. So at Amazon, to get all these data silos organized, what we did is, well, you have to construct a multi-departmental team. And it's not just your sustainability people, not just lawyers. You need to have the CFO, you need to have the sustainability officer, you need to have the chief compliance and legal officer, you need to have your communications department, and you need to have your public policy, because the company wants to know what is happening in the markets, where is the development. It's bringing these people together in an ESG reporting team that will overcome the challenges. And that's also the beauty about reporting, because often it brings them together for the first time.
Yes.
They didn't actually know that this department was having this great data, which this department can use as well. So I think this is a really beautiful start on how reporting can help the overall growth and competitiveness of a company.
Yes, thank you for this perspective, and this is a valuable lesson for companies navigating similar complexity, even smaller companies.
And actually, Oscar, if I may add, the bigger the company, the groups, the silos gets really permeating quite a lot. So getting that together, making them really unified structure, always a challenge. So getting that alignment on daily basis, it's a task by itself.
Yes, and in fact, family-owned business, even if large groups, often face unique challenge when integrating sustainability practices. You are very familiar with large family-owned company groups like Alserkal. So how can large family-owned conglomerates in UAE, such as Alserkal Group, which you are in the sitting in the board, leverage AI to improve ESG and sustainability performance?
I think one of the first things we did is understand what culture we want to build. Because whenever you're trying to introduce any new technologies, there's always a resistance, or any change you want to bring in, people have that tendency to resist things. And that's very normal. To overcome that, you have to make sure that you bring everybody together and clarify the vision and the mission which is there. Once you've achieved that clarity, then it is relatively easier for you to build the building blocks. So one of the things we did, we took them all on the offsite and we said, look, we need to have a theme for our company. What does the company need to be known on? And one of the themes was, we need to be known as a digital company, apart from whatever we're doing, because we're into multi-sectors. And they're all diversified, from train, metros, we do for the country, for the region, we're into waste sustainability, we're into investment. We co-founded many of the key organizations in the country, like Ittisalat, Diwa, Siwa, and the banks, Emirates MBD, CBD, insurances, and so forth. So it was very important for us to understand, okay, what do we want to do? One of the companies that we have, I'll try to throw it an example to make it more practical, what we did. We collect waste from 14,000 food establishments in Dubai alone. And when we talk about food establishment, anything to do with the hotel industry, restaurants, coffee shops, whatever cooking happens, labor camps, and so forth. Now, it was essential for us, before we go even develop our AI model and predictive modeling, we wanted to make sure that we have a platform where all the data is there. So we started developing the platform. We had the UAE Circular Economy Council meeting, one of them back in June 2023 at our premise. And then I promised both ministers, the chair and the vice chair, the chair was Mariam Al-Miheri, who's now the former climate change minister, and Abdullah Bantog, who's the current Minister of Economy and Tourism. We told them, look, we are building a digital platform which will make sure that we track all the waste we have in that respective field from all the 14,000 establishments we have, and which we launched that, I would say, the platform this year. What has that enabled us? It made sure all the stakeholders now, including our strategic partner, which is Dubai Municipality, are fully aware of the waste getting generated by which establishment, the quantity, and the cyclicality of that waste as well. So during the year, of which month and year, we get to know what waste and how much is there, because we're a very tourism country as well. So during summer, it would increase, so we get to know that thing. Now, given now we have that data, and we had prior to that data of about 15 years manually, so we tried to put this data together. Now we're on a journey of building a predictive model. So we can now say, in the future, which establishment will give us waste and what's the quantity is, so we can address and get that waste faster, so we can reduce the impact of greenhouse gas emission, CO2 and methane. So this is the journey we're building on. So this is what I would adopt people to do. But before that, again, do we have a sustainability framework or not? Many companies even don't have that today. So when question was asked by the minister in one of the council meetings we had, how many of us really have that? We said, and there are other large companies who are there, and we said, look, we're trying to take a phased approach, like the government. We do not want to embark on bringing all the beautiful models that we have from everywhere else and just bombard people on it, and we will not achieve anything. So we started developing the framework ourselves within the company, so we tried to reskill and skill the people themselves. So rather than bringing the big fours coming and telling us what to do, we started soul searching ourselves, because now we own the process of getting it done. So that should be your building block to start with.
Yes, and this is a very interesting point that you mentioned, which is the framework. Which we will come sooner. Before, I wanted to ask you, Pratik, because I believe that is very, very well connected on what Maher just said. In terms of data challenge the company face, in your experience working with businesses, what are the biggest data gaps the company face in ESG reporting?
Sure. Thank you. So before I answer that, it's very interesting that you mentioned about cultural and the social aspect of reporting, because unless we get people, bottoms up into the ecosystem, it's going to be very, very difficult. And what we have seen with the businesses also is, apart from the sustainability team, the rest of the organization really does not have enough understanding and awareness. So one of the things that we are building as part of the platform is an academy, as an LMS, so that from the bottoms up, the employees with the stakeholders and the suppliers as well, they are all coming together with the framework.
We don't have a sustainability team, just for information.
Okay.
Everybody's working on sustainability.
Perfect. So yes. So coming back to your question. So when it comes to data gaps, one is the biggest difference or the gap is the frequency, right? So like I said earlier, sustainability reporting or ESG reporting is not just a year-end exercise, right? The moment you do that, you get compliance and you get reporting, but you don't really get any intelligence. So the data has to be more real-time, right? So you mentioned about weekly, monthly insights. So it gives you that feedback loop where whatever actions and strategy that you're doing is creating results, or how do you optimize that? So that is one of the biggest one. And the second part is that a lot of this data, as much as you would like it, is not digitized, right? So we have basically like handwritten invoices, you have data coming in your emails and PDFs, and there are, like you said, the larger the organization, the more departments, the more silos you have. So like it or not, there are a lot of data gaps. And primarily because it's so time-consuming and effort-intensive. So people look at the top 20 buckets and then just get that data. But with AI, you can actually make sense of all that data and categorize them without losing that accuracy. Of course, you will need human oversight and human review, but it enables all of that to kind of come together. The other aspect, like we mentioned, especially when it comes to scope 3, right? It's not just your operations. It's the operations, your upstream systems and your downstreams and the suppliers. Most of them will not be in the same journey that you are in. So it's very, very important to get them on board as well, because it's a whole ecosystem, right? It's not an island by ourselves. So I think getting suppliers, getting upstream and downstream systems into your platform makes a big, big difference when it comes to data. Also when the data is not in digitized format, basically AI really, really helps with making sense of that data without doing the manual entry and stuff. So those are the main different aspects in which data gaps can be fulfilled and actually be used to drive your goals and strategy.
Yeah, yeah. And I believe you clearly pointed out where is the struggle and how maybe they can address these gaps. And coming back now to what Maher mentioned before, Katharina, you now work with GRI, which the most widely used sustainability reporting standards at the moment. With so many frameworks and standards available, what would you recommend to organizations that are just beginning their reporting journey?
Mm-hmm. Now, indeed, I now advise the Global Reporting Initiative, the framework which is most used. It's a standard. I really like your step-by-step approach. And that's also the approach GRI takes, because you don't need to report on all the metrics. What you actually do with the Global Reporting Initiative, and people have and companies have been doing that for the last 25 years, is you identify your most significant impacts, your most material topics, and that's where you're going to focus. And I would really recommend just use the standards, the GRI standard, to run through. Okay, these are, for example, we offer, if you work in this sector, well, your most material topics are likely to be X, Y, and Z. So, just use those tools. Because I always say, reporting is not about the report. It's a process. So if someone asks me, oh, could you write my report? Could you write my sustainability report? Well, it would be great, big business, perhaps, but that's not the point. The point is the process. You need to build capacity in your own company to do it. You need to look at where are my most significant environmental impacts. Is it water, for example? And why would you need to know that? Is because that's where your business risks and opportunities lie. And that's the other framework and standards which is more and more used across the world is the IFRS standards. And we talked yesterday about it in your sessions. Now they focus on business risks and opportunities. How does climate change impact your business? You know, if you're in water, if you're in agriculture, if there's a water scarcity in 3, 5, 10 years, your business is not sustainable in the long term. As simple as that. And investors are demanding you to make this transparent. Why? Because they want to know whether they should invest in you. So there's, you know, GRI reporting plus IFRS reporting. That's becoming the global baseline, the global standard. You don't need to be confused today. Starting out by GRI, just assessing your materiality is really a really good first step.
Yes, and staying on this topic, I believe that when we are talking about reporting and ESG reporting, it's very important to talk also about the risks. So as organization increasingly adopt AI, it's important to consider not only the benefits but also the risk. Maher, from your experience, what are the main risks or pitfalls when deploying AI for ESG and sustainability reporting? And how can organization mitigate them?
I'm sorry if we're going to come back to data again, because data is the crisp of the old things that we do today. If you don't have the right data in place, you will never be able to move forward before even you report. So you need to ensure that we have the right governance in place. So you need to create a team who looks after this data across all segments you have, your supply chains, how they're getting the data, how you're segmenting data, how they're even clearing the data itself, and can you trace the data back to its source? That becomes a very essence to do. So data becomes the most important thing to do. So investment on that will make a lot of sense. I'll give you an example. In one of the large organizations, we had about $700 billion of asset values. And imagine getting data to be organized in that organization, which is mind-boggling. So we had to create just a unit out of a thin air, which was not existing, just on data governance. We said we have to create a unit which would take care of this data to make sure it's clear so we'll be able to report now in the future. So make sure that you take care of the data first of all. Once you have the data in place, then you can work on your predictive modeling. Then you can work on your AI or machine learning model in that self. You need to make sure that your block box, as I mentioned earlier, has to be audited on frequent basis. You have to have an independent party come and tell you, look, this is how we're actually manipulating or processing the data for other reporting to happen. So you always have to have an independent party come in and audit for you to make sure that the reporting are as per the GRI standards or other global standards, even the IFRS standards are there. So those are the 2-3 key building blocks that you need to have. And you need to keep on looking at the regulatory environment all the time, because they will be evolving, because standardizers will actually move, because it's not fully harmonized across the globe, by the way. So some people read it differently. US read it differently, EU read it differently. In this part of the world, we're still harmonizing on databases. So we need to make sure that we're on the look on all the time. What are the new standards are there, and how can we harmonize ourselves with these standards? Because remember, whatever we export from here to EU or US, we have to also comply with their standards, and vice versa. So that also needs to be kept into the mind.
Okay, and I wanted to stay with you, Maher, because I want to move to the regulatory landscape and how rapidly is evolving. How institutions in the Middle East, particularly those bridging circular economy, prepare to adopt a powered reporting system responsibly?
I think it's work in progress. I don't think a lot of companies yet on the board of doing machine learning and AI at this point of time, and that's, I would say, the global scene. I just came from a keynote delivery in Austria last week, and I was talking also about AI and the challenges in the capital market over there, also a panel discussion on what's happening. So I think the pain is there across globally, it's been felt. How do you use these, leverage the new tools you have available today in terms of making sure that you're able to report correctly? What needs to be done? The government needs to support in these initiatives. And this is what we're trying to do in the US Circular Economy Council. We're actually engaging the private sector. We're also engaging academia for any problems that we have. So all the 22 policies that we issued in the first cohort were done in collaboration with the private sector. So they were not done by the policies themselves. And of course, an introduction of MRV becomes very important and permanent for us. Her Excellency, the Minister of Climate Change and Environment, Dr. Amna Dahak, just announced about the MRV in October this year itself. So that means we are taking a step-by-step approach that will also enable private companies to think about how do they automate and digitize their processes for this MRV reporting to happen digitally.
Yes, and I believe that we will come later back also on what we'll expect next in UAE about circular economy. Pratik, something about ESG Scope 3, which we know that is the most difficult one to handle from, I will say, small and larger companies.
Yes. So, like we all know, right, Scope 3 is not just about your operations. It's mostly about your ecosystem. So it's basically your suppliers, your delivery partners, your logistics providers, and even your raw materials manufacturers. Now, each of them are in different places, following different standards, following different processes. And it's not a small aspect of your emissions, because for most businesses, 70 to 90% of your emissions are on Scope 3. And it's also the most difficult one. So I think that's where a lot of businesses kind of prioritize Scope 1 and 2, and that has its own value. But if you're not addressing the elephant in the room, right, you're only going to go that far. So Scope 3 is really, really important from ensuring that whatever targets, your goals you're setting from the top down, right? Like, let's say the UAE government has their net zero by 2050 and 15% reduction by 2030 targets, right? So unless you're actually taking the whole ecosystem with you, you're not going to be able to achieve them on your own. So it's really, really important to engage and even empower your suppliers as well as business partners to kind of come on board your journey. And that's where actually AI really, really helps, because many of the suppliers themselves need help. And for you to be able to enable them to enhance their capacity can only be done through platforms. So that's where, especially now with AI, this is becoming more and more, I would say, step-by-step process still. But still, you are able to cater to a lot more proportion of your Scope 3 into your business systems. And like we said, like it's in an ecosystem where everyone has to come together up. It cannot be done by one industry versus the other industry, or one business with the other business. Everybody has to come up together. So I think that's where Scope 3 is really, really crucial as we go to the next stage, where we have the compliances, we have the MRVs in place, we understand the emissions at a country level or at a business level, but then how do we kind of go to the next step of reduction? All right, how do we go to decarbonization? So I think that's where the government itself will play a big role in the coming days on how do we actually go ahead from an entire population perspective.
Yeah, and I believe that AI will have day by day a more important role to help organization with Scope 3.
Great.
Katharina, let's briefly talk about the future. Now, the global ESG reporting landscape is evolving. So let's have like your perspective on this. What global developments in ESG and sustainability reporting do you foresee emerging over the next few years?
Well, unfortunately, I can't predict the future. I would like to. It's going to be complex, and we will be seeing different directions in the US, in the EU, but actually in terms of ESG reporting, the EU, is firm. It has now simplified its reporting, but it has created a comprehensive reporting system which called with double materiality. So you have this IFRS pillar, you have the GRI pillar. And a lot of countries are now looking at, okay, how can we adopt this? How is the best step to adopt this? The trend I see is that there is a recognition that if countries make ESG reporting mandatory, they need to strengthen the whole ecosystem. What does that mean? It's not just about the companies. It's about the regulator, it's about awareness in the whole policy-making system. And then there is also awareness, for example, and training for auditors. Because in the end, businesses want reliable data, investment wants reliable data, and how do you ensure reliability? It's going to be audit. So I think that's, and I have to declare I'm a former auditor for the EU, so I'm quite convinced of the power of audit. So I predict that there's a coming together in terms of in-regions awareness raising, complexity, but actually I'm convinced that the whole landscape will also get easier because there's more GRI, ISSB are working together to make it more interoperable and to make it easier for companies. They don't need to know a lot of acronyms. And just one last example from Amazon. They did what usually takes businesses a life cycle analysis of their products for their GHG emissions takes months.
Yeah.
They constructed an AI model, 17 minutes. And we will be seeing that. And that's so exciting because in the EU, they've been complaining about bureaucracy. Well, actually, it's going to be easier next year already and the year after. So I think we're making many quick steps. That's what's exciting me.
Thank you, and this is an important preview of what we can expect and what is shaping the international agenda. Coming back to UAE, Maher, you are sitting in the UAE Circular Economy Committee. What national or regional regulatory trends you think should private sector leaders prepare for, especially in relation to AI-enabled sustainability reporting?
The first thing would be align yourself to the policy that we have today, which is up to 2031. Because you probably, those who've been here in this country for a very long time, you've realized that the government over here is leading all the initiatives. If you go to other parts of the world, it's always the private sector pushes for that.
Great.
And of course, government supports follows. In some part of the world, government even stifle innovation, unfortunately. So I think alignment to the policy is very important. Come to the regulators, speak to them, what exactly you're developing, and be aligned with whatever the government is developing. One of the things I was recommended during COP28 was how can we have a regulatory sandbox, i.e., when we have regulations issued in the public, how do we make sure that the regulations have been effective and achieved its results? And not long ago, I think a couple of months ago, they've announced they're going to have a regulatory sandbox. This was at the Ministry of Economy and Environment that I was saying that pavilion. So I think getting aligned with whatever UAE is trying to do will be very important. UAE is the first country which appointed an AI minister. That's mean AI, it's in focus. So there is a huge, I would say, force has been driven in terms of not only at governmental level, but also at the private sector level. And now we're going back to education level as well. So it's mandatory to all the public schools have to teach AI to all the students. And of course, they had to reskill all the teachers during summertime. So if government is working now on MRV, which becomes mandatory in next year, it's important that we go and align ourselves how the MRV going to work. What are the data points they require from us, so we can start preparing those data. One thing I would also caution you, do not prepare only what you have as data sets. Always try to ask your stakeholders, regulators, others, what else could be there so you don't have to go back and reinvent the wheel again and again. Make sure that you have a comprehensive data set to be prepared. Even if you think those are not important today, please make sure you add them. This is one of the learnings we've gone through when we were building our own digital system. We actually gone to all the stakeholders before we say, okay, the system is built. We ask all the stakeholders, including government, private sectors, so we put everything possible. So, and make sure they're configurable. They're not really static. Unfortunately, despite being in 21st century, we still have companies who have rebranded themselves from a computer science company to AI company overnight just because AI being there. Unfortunately, they're still hardcoding such things, which is unbelievable. Make sure these are configurable data, i.e. you'll be able to use them through a simple configuration through your admin IT staff.
Thank you, Maher, for these insights coming from your privileged position in the public sector in UAE. So we came at the end of our discussion. Thank you to our panelists for sharing their expertise and everyone in the audience for joining us today. I believe the discussion provided, very, very good insights into leveraging AI and data for sustainability. And we hope that you leave inspired to implement these ideas and insight in your organizations. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pratik.